Like I was fighting the bike and the terrain and the dunes way more than I was like, oh, I need to go fast against these guys. I was just like trying to survive. I quickly realized that they make Dakar specifically to just try and beat you down as much as possible.
They make Dakar to beat you down as much as possible, to drive you into the ground, to make you dig deep and see if you've still got something left in the tank. Weeks-long, desert-crushing, sleep-deprived madness. If we wind it back to the start, that's all it ever was, a test. The gnarliest of adventure with a race tacked on. The open desert, a trail bike, a map and a compass. In 1986, the race was 15,000 kilometers. In 1992, it ran from Paris to Cape Town. In 1998, they ran a stage of 745 kilometers of pure sand dunes. And over time, it became more competitive, a little shorter, a little faster, and a lot more professional. The bikes are purpose-built, reliable, and incredible. The amount of professional races is many times more than it was in the 80s and the 90s, and the way they're riding these bikes is insane. Pushing hard, blowing out corners, over jumping dunes, and riding on the edge for 12 racing days across the historic Rub al Khali. And while the race has got shorter, it's not by as much as you think. I raced Dakar in 2015 and it was littered with 800 kilometer plus days, 50 degree C peaks and minus 13 lows, the hardest day I ever had on a bike, and a 781 kilometer special in Bolivia. It was endurance, but through that experience, doing some rallies, racing enduros, and riding adventure bikes, something has always been incredibly apparent to me. It's different riding an 800 kilometer stage to racing one. When the chips are down, your job is on the line, and you're asking something very different of your body and your mind to a privateer of mediocre fitness. And it got me wondering, what would it be like to train like a Dakar pro? How fit are these guys? How tough are they? And can I experience that? Now, to start this adventure off, I need a pro rider to ask about their training program. I popped onto Instagram, got distracted by Reels for a few hours, and then messaged Skylar Howes, and he agreed to answer my many questions. We recorded for well over an hour, and you can catch that podcast on the Break Magazine Patreon now and on your favourite podcast platforms. I followed that up with an interview with Skylar's trainer Nick Chase. He gave me a really good outline of exactly what Skylar does, how he does it, and it meant that I was going to be riding my bicycle more than I've ever ridden a bicycle, swimming more than I've ever swum, and riding my dirt bike a ton. And if that wasn't enough, I also set myself some challenges at the end just to really drive the point home. This might not come as a surprise to you, but me and this vintage-ish Specialized Roubaix don't spend much time together these days. I'm not an endurance athlete. I have never been an endurance athlete and haven't really done any meaningful levels of road cycling, well, since 2014 probably. The next 3 weeks are going to be interesting. I cycle for a little bit of fun. Most of my cycling is down the hill, not up it, and that context is important. There will be tons of you watching this that will be many times fitter than me, and some of you that might even be less fit than me. Side note, I know my saddle is a bit low here. It slipped. And so I set out on that very first cycle ride to kind of establish a baseline of my current fitness, an FTP of sorts to work backwards from and figure out how hard each session should be. It went relatively well. The weather was quite nice for a winter day, and 15 minutes into my 20-minute hard FTP session, the road turned into a lake.
Oh, that is super cold.
At the end of that cycle, my body was a bit confused. I sweated a lot, and you can see here I was a bit tired, but still pretty functional. I also didn't turn the mic on in this clip, but mostly my body just wanted to eat the cupboards bare. I think the desk surfing to exercise balance has left my body a bit confused as to how to deal with extended exercise. I followed that eating session up with a good amount of yoga, and that was me done for the day. Now, it may not have escaped your attention, that I have finished the Dakar Rally. I did so in 2015, but for context, I am not a pro rider. I'm not even close and never have been close to being a pro rider. I fall in that category of like above average, maybe. When I finished the Dakar, I did so with like fortune, luck, pain, and just a lot of suffering, but there was no slickness or smoothness to my experience. For example, my best stage finish was around 50th and I finished 61st or something. Now, back to the exercise. Day 2 was a higher intensity day. Now, to keep the impact on Skylar's body down, he swims a lot, so I swam. I'm not a bad swimmer, but I'm very far from a good one. But it turns out I look incredible when you film me, almost as good as Michael Phelps. So I just finished a 1K swim. 600 meters of that were sprint intervals. Sprint is a loose term. I'm not a good swimmer. Survival, as fast as I can go without drowning, I would call it. But we did a K in total. Felt pretty good at the end. A little bit dehydrated because the pool's in balmy 30 degrees, 29 degrees. Could really do with it being like 10 degrees less. But I popped around to my local gym and proceeded to lift heavy things. It surprised me how much heavyweight training is a part of the program for Dakar riders.
Like when I go into the gym, it's usually stability and strength. Part of being like a rally racer or a big bike rider is being able to control that big heavy bike, and you got to be strong in order to do that.
Just been doing some deadlifts, not that heavy, nice weight, 80%, 1 rep max. Supersetting them with planks. There's one thing that's become immediately apparent to me is that professional athletes are mentally tougher than I am. Or I've literally just got David Goggins going around in my head.
Who's gonna carry the boats and the logs?
So there you have it. Lift weights, get strong, turn my core into something stronger than overcooked spaghetti. From there, that was the basic pattern of my training day in, day out.
It's about 6:30 in the morning. We're heading out to do cycle number 3. Yeah, it's just a bit earlier than I'd like it to be.
Face the cold, steady rate endurance activity, intervals and strength with a daily dose of stretching, yoga, and quite a lot of eating.
So that's just your off the bike training. And then you have to ride 3 to 5 times a week. And your riding should be whatever you're not good at.
At that moment, I realised why pro Dakar racers don't live and train in the UK. Oh well, when the weekend arrived, I loaded the bike up and headed for the only open track within a 2-hour drive, even though the sky was leaking. Yeah, it was great. I'm a bit out of shape on a dirt bike, and that shows. My hands just can't really handle that. I just don't do it enough, so they're going to hurt tomorrow. On the tank of my bike, and the graphics kit that we sell in the web shop says life's better when you're riding, and genuinely today has proved that. The weather is disgusting, but the track has been amazing, and really enjoyed it. So just got to spend 84 hours washing my bike now. It is the end of week 1, and I am tired. Basically. And today I just have like this general low level of fatigue throughout my whole body. And this is where the difference between me and someone like Skylar starts to really shine through. Like, I don't think he's tired doing what I've done, if that makes sense. I don't think he's getting to the end of a week and he's like, oh, I'm a bit fatigued. You know, we're doing the same amount of time, but he is doing everything more. And as week 2 rolled around, I rode out on my Monday endurance cycle and I messed up. I went the wrong way. I turned left instead of right and into the biggest hill in my local area. My heart rate spiked and, well, actually it was no drama. I just got on with my ride. Now, about 30 kilometers of consistent but gentle uphill later, I did start to run a tiny bit low on power, and the fatigue was probably accumulating.
So I'm an hour and 10 in, and it's been a beautiful ride so far, but I am pretty gassed. I'm sure it'll be okay. Like, I'm not like completely empty. I reckon I'll get a bit of a second wind, but you know, my heart rate's like never really been that high. I just feel empty. So we'll see how that goes. Oh.
I made it back from that ride, the longest I've done in a very long time, tired but happy, and something was a little bit different. I made it back from that ride, the longest ride I have done in a very, very long time. Pretty damn tired, but pretty happy. And then something changed, something happened in me.
Like the morning cycle was in theory 1,000 calories, and normally in the past I would have had to go and live in the fridge for the day. But yeah, yesterday it wasn't the case, and today I feel much better.
And I continued to feel great. I felt good in the gym, I felt good on the bike, I didn't feel like I was going to drown in the pool anymore, and most importantly, I was having a really good time. It's a lot, and that's kind of been my biggest struggle so far, is that there's a lot of things to do that are very different, and so the admin is massive. My dirt bike needs the air filter cleaning, it needs a really good wash, which is 2 hours of my life. Then I have to wash my kit, and then I need my cycling kit ready, my food ready, my hydration ready. And so you're just constantly on this treadmill of like, wash your kit, do this, do that, do this, do that. At this point in the program, I expected to be nearly dead, and yet I felt great. When I planned this video, I thought the intro was going to be clips of me cut together, nearly dying, sweating profusely on a bicycle, and just utterly incapable of achieving anything, because that's kind of been my experience in competing in events as a slightly above average person against elite competitors. And yet, what I've come to realize is that the way they train is balanced and progressive and patient and smart, and totally not designed to destroy you. But remember a few minutes ago when I said I'd also set myself some challenges. I wanted to do something on the bike that was much closer to rally training than just practicing on my enduro bike to be fitter and stronger. Something that was akin to a really monster rally stage. Trying to ride a huge rally stage in the UK is, well, it's just not really possible. Fortunately, for a few £100s, you can fly out of the UK and go to somewhere like Wim Motors Academy in southern Portugal, where they'll rent you a bike with a tracking system, give you a road book, and teach you if you need it, or send you out into the wild and fend for yourself if you think you don't. And that is exactly what I did. A plane, a hire car, my friends Ty, Rich, and my girlfriend Lucy headed south to the sun to train like a Dakar pro. I had a goal in mind. Now, typically, if you look at the history, a Dakar rally special stage ranges from 300 to 600 kilometers in length, between 3 and 10 hours riding time, depending on the day. So in my mind, 500 Ks in Portugal was going to put me in that bracket of 8 to 10 hours and be pretty damn difficult, especially with how twisty the terrain is there. And so began my day. Early, armed with 2 road books and a film crew, and a long way to go.
I made a mistake. 36.62.
How was it this morning?
Yeah, it's been really good. I got lost once because I had it's like silly mistakes and you don't know what you're doing and you just end up wasting time. But I had the trip master on the GPS setting, and when you're in the woods, it doesn't know where you are. So that it just like, it's always out. It's just a silly mistake really, but I ended up getting lost and having to go back to the same point twice. Probably wasted like 5 minutes or something, but otherwise it's been really good. The trails are really nice. You notice as well, like, you don't ride rally stuff that much. You have to be really conscious not to hold on, because like you can feel already, I've only been riding an hour and a half and my hands are starting to get a tiny bit tired. You have to just be like, don't hold on, just like be patient, don't accelerate too hard, because otherwise like in 7 hours time my hands are going to be like.
A quick note on how all this works. Essentially, you are out trail riding all day in the real world. It's not a closed course, organised event, so food and making sure you're full of fuel, etc. is up to you. You need to be self-sufficient. You might call this foreshadowing.
So I got a bit of problem. At this junction, the gate was locked. This one, 7664, the gate was locked. So I had a look on the map, and basically I need to go round and I can pick the route back up. They have this cool app so you can see exactly where the route goes if you get lost. But as you can see, there's barbed wire fences everywhere. So, and it's a little maze that I'm trying to figure out my way around. I think it's a bit the nature of riding road book. So a strange thing has happened. Firstly, I'm vlogging on my phone, which is disgusting. I've never done this in my life. So I've tried to go round it, and now after half an hour of opening shitty farmer gates, I've got to this one and it's padlocked and I don't know the way out. So that is super annoying. Yeah, it's been a half hour wasted, probably another half hour to get out of this farmer's field. So I don't know that we're gonna make 500k today. Don't think that's happening.
Did you hear that in the background? That was the farmer pulling up to let me out of their field. She was very mellow about it. I didn't capture it on GoPro because my GoPro had died, but clearly the gods were on my side at some point and we were back in the game. The roadbook headed north, a long way into the middle of nowhere, and as I kept moving along the trail, I really started to find my groove. My body was holding up well, the riding was awesome, and then incident number 2 for the day struck. My 360 camera with all my footage from the day so far was gone, flown out of its case. I spent 40 minutes riding the trail looking for it, but in a sandy gum tree forest filled with muddy potholes, the chances were 0. I was sad, the price was going to hurt my bank account, but the only solution to the problem were a few wheelies to forget my feelies.
But otherwise I feel really good. I don't know why, but maybe when you race, like, the intensity is a bit higher. My heart rate's been like 100, 110, maybe 120 if I got really excited. It's been really fun. Super fast in some bits, and then other bits it's like completely single track, like overgrown second gear, up through the trees. And I'd have some good footage of that if I had a 360 camera still.
I had to dip out of the trail because I'm a little bit lower on fuel than I intended.
Oh man, remember that self-sufficiency foreshadowing I was talking about? Yeah, I missed a fuel stop. I thought it was optional, and with my extra miles riding around farms and looking for cameras, I was a good 40k short of making that fuel station. That meant more time lost going around. I found my way back to the trail using the app that Wim and Clint provide, and kept on moving with the sun setting and super trails still to come. And as the sun approached the horizon and I rode into these ridiculously pretty sequence of shots, I snapped a spoke in the rear wheel. It was just one of those days. I was starting to wrap my head around this whole experience. The story hadn't really played out like I'd hoped. The journey was different. It was not as painful as I expected, but it was difficult in other ways. I wasn't beaten down, I didn't ride 500k, but after 6 hours of moving time, I felt fine. Not fresh, but definitely capable of several more hours. The stage wasn't as intense as I've experienced when racing rallies, and that competitiveness takes over. For me, it kind of twigged that you can do the work that the pro riders do. You can cycle, you can work hard in the gym, and you can ride your bike. It's going to make you way better than if you don't. It's not anywhere near as physically destructive as I'd expected. But what it does show me is there's a little secret sauce that pro riders have that me as a normal rider don't. That when the race starts and the days are monster long, super tough, and they're fighting for the win, what makes them special is not the fitness program, but something a little more intangible. They see the world a little slower than I do. They can dig a little deeper, remember the roadbook a little better, and ride a bike on a whole other level to normal people. And when you mix all of that together, you get a Skylar Howes or a Toby Price.